Hi, Diagwit, Daniel Manning with Japan Forward, and today I'm joined in the studio by Jason Halayko. He's not quite as tall as me, but I'm sure you could see him just fine. Jason is a professional photographer and longtime contributor to Japan Forward, so today he's here with us to talk about his journey and all things photography related. So, Jason, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
So, by way of introduction, could you first just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So basically, I was born and raised in Canada, but I've lived in Japan now for almost 25 years, so over half my life here in Japan. Photography-wise, I started photography in '94, basically when I started high school in Victoria. I was extremely lucky that my high school had a darkroom, and actually it had a Japanese class as well, so that's how I started to learn Japanese. And I remember though spending so many hours after school in the darkroom, just falling in love with the process of photography. And so for the last, I can't do math, but decades now, I've been involved in photography in one way or another. And it's always been just part of my life. And when I came to Japan originally for work, I met a really cool friend of mine who was a professional freestyle motocross rider, so FMX. He invited me out to some events. Those photos got published. That led to jobs with Red Bull eventually, and then I've been working with Red Bull for almost 18 years. So I'm really well known for working with Red Bull and doing all that kind of stuff. And I've been like 100% full-time freelance photographer now for I think 8 or 9 years since I got my EJUKEN, my PR, permanent residence visa, which is important to have to be able to do creative things here in Japan as your job. And yeah, I'm just ever so grateful and lucky for all the connections I've made, the people I've met, the adventures I've had. Japan, as they say, is very much connection-orientated in business and everything like that. So I've met some really cool people, and that's led me to, like I said, some crazy adventures. And I'm here now, still alive and happy and having fun, so it's good.
So, was there a specific moment, or a specific image that you saw that made you want to become a photographer? Can you kind of remember the moment where you decided, this is for me?
I think growing up, I did look at my brother's snowboard magazines a lot and things like that, and so I was really interested in the photography of action sports. But growing up in Victoria, it's such a small town, and there's really not a big scene at the time of anything in that way. So it always seemed like I could have gone to Whistler, or I could have gone to these places, but I didn't have a car or anything. I didn't have the resources. So that always seemed like such a pipe dream. And then I do remember though, when I first started photography at high school, and you see the images coming up the paper when you put it into the liquid to print it and everything. And that whole process, I just really fell in love with, of the creating of an image. So I think at that time, I fell in love with the idea of being a photographer. And I actually talked to my high school teacher at the time. I was like, when I graduate, I think it'd be really cool if I could go to photography school and really learn, because there was one in my hometown. And he was like, your skills are beyond what they're going to teach you at that school already. So I think you just need to get out there and do it. So I just started. I took pictures of my friend's band, skateboarding, all that kind of stuff. So it was slowly. But I think the biggest thing that happened to me was when Red Bull called the first time and was like, hey, we actually want to pay you to come out and shoot this freestyle motocross event in Yokohama with all your friends. So I knew everyone there. It wasn't a big crazy away thing. So that first event was okay, this is an actual possibility. And I did well, and Red Bull really liked it. So they kept calling me back. And it just kind of snowballed over the years. So there's not one specific moment when it was eureka, this is what I want to do. It was just something I always did. And because I was doing it and meeting cool people along the way, and it led to certain things, I was like, maybe I can do this. But saying that, when I first went freelance, 100%, quit my job and everything, that is the scariest thing you could possibly ever do, especially here in Japan. Because I had my visa and everything, but if you're not working, and I had no safety net here, really, parents or anything like that, right? So I literally had panic attacks for the first month, 2 or 3 times. I remember just crying on my couch, am I gonna do this? And somehow it's worked out, and I haven't spent all my money yet, so it's good.
So I don't know if you're an Instagram user, but you go on Instagram today, and you know, you see photos and like to my eye, you know, the unprofessional eye, they look super good, you know. So I'm kind of wondering, like, from a photographer's perspective, which is kind of more important, like the camera or technology or the sort of like innate kind of photographer's sense?
So my take on that, in my heart, I feel like, this is going to sound weird, but in Japan, I'm a ninja. I'm not a samurai. So what I mean by that is, if you're in a photography and you feel you're a samurai, your gear is what is your soul. So there's a lot of Japanese photographers, a lot of photographers around the world actually, who everything is really, really important what gear you use. And this is huge online. You know, if you're not a Sony user, then you're garbage. If you're not like a Canon, you're garbage. Like people really get into the technical and overly emphasize the gear. But as I said, I'm a ninja, so I feel I could take this camera and take good photos. I could take my phone, take good photos. I work for Fuji, I work with Nikon and stuff like that. I've worked with Sony. Any camera I'm given at any time, I feel I have the confidence that I can take good photos. Of course, if I'm given a 20-year-old camera, the image is going to look like they're from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. That's a really popular thing these days. But I honestly think, like, if you want to get into photography especially, don't worry about having the most expensive and best gear. You could easily drop $20,000, $30,000 on gear between lenses and camera stuff. That doesn't mean you're going to take good photos. So it's really, really important, I think, is to focus on your own image, your own style, and like just get out there and shoot. Like the martial art I take, there's a very famous quote, is just shut up and train. Stop talking about all this stuff. Just shut up and train. Same thing with photography. Shut up and get out and shoot. So yeah, training your eye, training your brain, and being able to see moments is much more important than watching like YouTube videos on the technical aspects of whatever camera, or like reading the manual and stuff. Like you don't learn that way.
Okay. You touched on something interesting a second ago. So like this retro boom, I don't know if it's just like a exclusively Japanese phenomenon, or if it's happening in other countries, but you know, younger people like buying all these retro cameras. Like what do you make of that?
I think it's really interesting because like, yeah, people who are say, you know, 20s and things like that, they've grown up with digital photography and they've grown up seeing beautifully perfect photoshopped images of everything. And that's the norm to them, where for someone like myself, I grew up before that. So you're seeing all these perfect images and it looks amazing, but for them, it's kind of like the norm and it's not interesting. So a lot of people, there was like someone famous in the States, I think, bought a little point and shoot, and that was shown on TikTok. And then that kind of blew up all that.
Oh, that's where it started?
As far as I can recall, that's kind of like was one of the starting points for that. And I myself also bought like a 10-year-old Fujifilm, the X10. I bought one, using it for a while with my YouTube channel and stuff like that. And it's fun. It looks cool. But my personal thing is, after using it for a bit, I made a book last year for myself. It's on Amazon. If you look up my name, it'll pop up. And when I was actually selecting photos to use in the book, I noticed that the images, although they were very nice on my phone or my computer, the images I had taken with my X10 were not quite the resolution I wanted for when I wanted to print them.
Right.
So yes, if your main goal is to put images on Instagram or just share them on YouTube or on Facebook and things like that, sure, an old camera's awesome, super easy, it looks cool and that. But if you're looking at using the images, like kind of future-proofing the images that you're taking at the time, you might want to think about investing in something with a bit of a larger sensor and something that's a bit nicer. There's lots of like, this is a retro style camera, but it's 24 megapixels, so it still looks cool when I'm using it.
Right.
And the images look really nice. And if I want, I can edit them to look old. But you can't take images with an old camera and edit them to look new. It's much more difficult. But saying that, you know, as long as you're having fun with what you're shooting, I think it's fine. But the crazy thing is, yeah, like the Fujifilm, what is it, 100V, 105, which came out a long time ago, because of this boom, it tripled in price and stuff like that. And there's like cameras online that you could have bought 4 or 5 years ago, like the X10. It was for sale like for $200, but by the time I wanted to buy it, it was $500. Okay. So these old cameras you would think are kind of junky are actually going up in value, which is interesting to see. But I myself, I'm really enjoying the camera I have now. So I haven't really used the X10 much at all these days. It's like, it's a boom, it's a phase, and that's kind of, for myself, I'm kind of a bit over it now, but yeah. You can always edit it to look old anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So like on the other end of things, how do you see the field of photography changing, with, the advent of AI and AI development? Is it going to have like a major impact on photography in general, do you think?
Well, I think, so like when you take pictures with your iPhone, the iPhone actually kind of like uses a little bit of AI in there and makes it so it looks nicer.
Okay.
It automatically kind of makes it look nicer in the end. Top level cameras don't quite do that just yet. That could be something that comes out soon though. So you don't, like the aperture priority is what I usually shoot on. So the camera knows how I should shoot, but in the future that might get even better. And it might know how I want to edit, so it could actually just naturally edit the images in camera, things like that. That's not quite yet. What is coming out though, and I've been approached by companies to put this on my YouTube actually, is AI editing. So like people who shoot weddings and they'll shoot like 10,000 photos in a day,
right.
And they have to cull it. So like they have to take the 10,000 to the best 200. So there's programs now that use AI to help you select. So they might look at like 10 images that are quite similar,
right.
And just like pick out one, so you don't have to look at everything. So that is a thing now. And then AI, editing for like fashion and portraits. So skin and blemishes, which I know I have enough. That can be really difficult to edit by hand.
Right.
It does take a real skill to make it so it looks nice, but it just looks fake. And now there's programs out there that use AI to one click and it'll take all the blemishes out. It'll still leave like the texture in the skin and all that. So, I mean, anything that saves someone time is a bonus. But in the end, these eyes, not the AI, is what's important in photography. So if you don't have that image and that skill to get that original cool photo, then it's not really a point. And I think AI imagery now is so actually bad at a lot of it because it's feeding off itself now. It's kind of like not really much of a thing anymore. It was really, really kind of popular when it first came out. But anytime on Instagram, when you see an AI image now, it's like, that's AI.
Right.
I wish you could actually filter those out. If there was a switch where I could be like, anything that looks AI, just don't even show me,
yeah.
I would love that. Because I'm all about what's the word? There's a word in English, authenticity. Because like what I do with Red Bull and action sports and portraiture and that, if you start using AI, then it's fake.
Right.
That's all it is. So like, sure, I can make it look like the person's doing something higher and bigger and better in a crazy environment.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. So authenticity in the fields that I shoot in is insanely important. So AI, it's good in the back end, I think now, it's getting better. But so far in the actual field when you're shooting, there's no way I personally use it so far that I know of. There's probably people out there who could write and comment about, this is a really good way to use it. But personally, not yet for myself.
Yeah. Well, maybe at some point you could use AI to filter out the AI generated images.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be a good way to do it.
But listen, so like me, like I've only owned like one camera in my life. It was a good camera. Like my friend bought it back from Spain. It was like a little black camera. And what you would do is like you look into it, right? And you press a button and it shows you like all these various images of different beautiful women. So like for somebody like me who doesn't know anything about photography, never owned like a proper camera, what advice would you give? Say somebody like we're interested in getting into photography, but don't know where to start, what camera to go with.
So there is a million options out there right now for photography. You could start used, you could spend a lot of money and get something new. I always tell people to look at your budget, what's realistic.
Right.
You don't want, if you're just getting into anything, and it's a funny Japanese thing is like a lot of people in Japan, if you're going to climb Mount Fuji, they'll go spend $1,000 on gear to climb Mount Fuji. You have to have all the new stuff. I'm not really into that. If your budget is $500 or it's $1,000, go to the shops and really just look out what's possible in your budget. And you don't need the best gear right off. Get a body that is a decent body, something new, and get it used at first is fine. If you're in Japan and looking at camera gear, used gear here in Japan is just as good as new. So don't be afraid of getting something used. And then I'd say get a 50 mil 1.4, a little nifty 50 as they call it, and maybe if you can afford a Zoom or something, that's great. And then, just shut up and shoot, get out. If you want to learn about photography, now this is something I was told by a professional photographer years ago when I worked at Denny's in Victoria. Look at photos. Just go to museums, look at art, look at photos, look how the light is being portrayed in these photos, the image, the emotion you get out of it and things like that. And I do YouTube myself and I have a channel and I talk about photography, which is good when you've just got time for it. But if you really want to learn, getting out and shooting, one thing, and looking at photos, just magazines, National Geographic, Time, all these classic magazines are great. If you want to shoot sports, look at sports magazines, look at sport websites and stuff like that. Because you do have to train your eye and what is good. But then, like you're a nice, large young man, you can't grow muscles from reading magazines. You can't grow muscles from watching YouTube. You got to get in the gym and do the work.
Right.
So if you want to shoot models, get your friends out, get your girlfriend, boyfriend out, walk in the street and do street photography. Tokyo and Japan in general is amazing for street photography. If you want to shoot sports, go to your local skateboard park and just try to make friends, or reach out to people on Instagram. There's lots of free modoru in Japan where you can pay a model ichiman or like even 3,000 for an hour, and they're great. I use them for my YouTube and stuff like that, and they're very professional. And it's a transaction, so it's easy. It's like,
right.
We're doing this as a job, so if you want to do model photography and stuff like that, perfect way to do it. So there's a million ways you can start on your journey as a photographer. But don't get hung up on the gear. Get whatever you can afford at the time. If all you can afford is your phone, fine. Shoot video and photos on your phone. That's awesome. Learn how to edit, and then just get out in the street, get out and shoot. Your first 10,000 photos are gonna suck. But just like anything, you will get better. It's baby steps. No one's gonna, I've had people message me on Instagram, like, how do I become a Red Bull photographer? Or like, how do I do this? And it's like, well, do you shoot anything that company is interested in? No, but I know I can do it. Well, prove it. You have to prove it, show people you can do it, and then hopefully things come in. But yeah, it's just, don't worry so much about the gear, get out and shoot, and try to just find enjoyment in the process, because it's a lifelong process. There is no end to photography, and that's something I really love. It's the same as the martial art I do. There's no end to martial arts. There's no end to photography. I can't take this picture and then put down my camera and I'm done. There's always something new. So it's a huge process, and you have to understand it's a long process. So any world famous photography, they've been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. There's some people who are very good at the start, good connections, but it's a long journey and it's a fun journey. So yeah, just be aware of that.
Okay. So you've been in the game obviously for a long time now. Just very briefly, is there any sort of bucket list thing you want to photograph?
Yeah, I have a few ideas in my head of shoots that I really want to do that I haven't quite been able to move towards executing yet. And I'm going to keep a couple of those secret because, it's just, if I put it out there in the world and someone jumps on it before I have the courage to do it, I'll be really upset. But I think in general, I would love to do more portraiture, bucket list of maybe some more famous people. I've gotten the opportunity to shoot a lot of really cool people, so it's always fun. But maybe, I don't know, travel a bit more. I would love to do some more travel photography and go to Mongolia, or I want to go to Korea and Taiwan for street photography and stuff like that. Europe would be great too. I haven't been back to Europe in a long time. So if I can utilize my camera and allow that for me to see the world a bit more, there's a lot of buckets there that I could fill up pretty quick. So I think that'd be fun.
Cool. So one thing we're doing with this interview series is each guest we have on, we get them to ask a question for the next guest.
Yeah.
And they don't know who the next guest is going to be. So our last guest, the question he proposed to you is, what is your dream?
So that's a huge question. My basic first thing that pops to my mind is my dream is that my children grow up to be happy. And other than that, I'm pretty happy, and that's going to make me start crying actually right now. But because I have 2 little kids, and when you have kids, they become your world. Personally, my dream is, I'm 46, 47 this year. A lot of the events and things I shoot are very physical. I'm done at the end of the day, some days 12 hours, 18 hours of shooting and stuff like that. It's nuts. So I do dream of transitioning slowly but surely to a studio one day. I would love to have my own, like something this size, where I have my own workspace, a studio I could shoot, somewhere I could shoot YouTube videos and things like that, if I could slowly transition to that. But I'm thinking like when I'm 50 or like 55, which still seems like a long ways away, but I know it's going to come like that.
Yeah.
So I've been looking for spaces and things like that and checking it out. But my internal dream plan is to bring up my YouTube, to bring the revenue up to YouTube to enough where I can take that then put it into a studio. So I'm not putting too much pressure on my household economy and stuff like that. And then slowly but surely make that a bit of like I don't want to use pillar in my community, but like a space where I could help the community that I live in. I would love to like be able to give back to my community a bit, because I live in Chigasaki, which is down in Kanagawa. Amazing community. I've been so welcome there, and we know people in all the little shops and everything around where I live. It's just amazing. I haven't really been able to do that in Japan before. So I'd love to be able to give back to those people and be like, hey, you're awesome. Bring your family in this day and let me shoot them, and we'll do this every year if you want, and no charge. And if I could do that, that'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. And finally, do you have anything you'd like to ask our next guest, whoever that might be?
That's hard. Maybe just like, what are some unique challenges that you've faced living here in Japan? Because I've been here for 25 years. And it's a beautiful place to live, but there are walls you bump into every once in a while that pop out of nowhere. So it can be a beautiful place to live. It can be frustrating at times. So yeah, I would love to hear what unique challenges that they've faced while they're living here.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming in, Jason.
Thanks for having me. Much pleasure.